Hello, everybody, and welcome to Explorations, where we explore what it's like beyond being human. I'm Tanys Couglan, and I'm your host today, and I have Jennifer Jurkofsky here today with me.
Hi, Tanys. Thank you so much for having me. I am Jennifer Jurkofsky. I have over 20 years of spiritual journeying towards my holistic practice. So I am a registered psychotherapist, a certified Canadian counselor, an intuitive life coach, and I bring my understanding of the human psyche as it relates to vibrational energies, both internally and externally, to support a fully holistic healing experience for my clients. I bring a wide range of energy healing modalities. I am a Shamanic Light Worker, a Spiritual Alchemist, a Sufi Al Kahina. I am a Sakhmet and Reiki Aqualid Master and a Nocti Practitioner. And I use all of these different modalities, teachings, and practices in my way of service.
And I'm just so excited to have you on the show.
It's an honor to be here.
It's an honor to be one of your best friends. Or you're one of mine. So
You're definitely one of mine.
We agree on this.
Through many lifetimes.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk a little bit about that. So the lifetimes that we've had have been pretty incredible. We've had a lot of big ones, some in Egypt, some in ancient Rome, I think it was, or Greece, ancient Greece, I think. That one that wasn't so pleasant, which we won't talk about.
Oh, that one. Yes, no, that's okay. That's for another show potentially. But yeah, no, we've had some beautiful lifetimes together, and a lot of them that really fit with this idea of beyond being human. Right? We've had lifetimes together in other worlds.
We have.
Lifetimes together on this world as other beings.
Yes.
and all of that. So it's been a beautiful range of experiences.
For sure.
And I know I say this often to you, but I'm very grateful that we've been able to journey together through so many of them.
As am I. It's always great to feel connected and understood. And when we've been through so many lives together, we have that kind of a connection, which is awesome. And you have written our first book about past lives. So Jen and I are working on another one as well, but she's just in the final editing stages of this book.
I mean, you talk about some incredible downloads of memory that have come. So over the past, I don't know, when was the first time I reached out with you about this? Maybe
a year?
Yeah, it's been about that. I had my first kind of remembering of the Lyran lifetime that I had. That came in a dream with a bunch of other lifetimes. It was kind of, I talk about going into the records, and for me, it's a little bit different than other people explain it, where I just kind of go into what I call the void, right? It's the openness of all things.
And we're talking about the Akashic records, is what she's referring to, for those of you that...
And it comes down kind of as a Rolodex for me, and I just, okay, this, and then I see it like a movie that plays on the open expanse. So it was interesting in that dream, like this lifetime was just one of the lifetimes that was touched on. And I thought, okay, like that's a significant lifetime, but I don't have very much about it. And then over the course of the year, it was like getting heavier, and remembering was becoming more connected. And I was getting more than just snippets or clips of different things. I was getting full extravagant scenes of things that were happening. And I remember, taking notes on it, and then really being told, no, you're going to write this. Right. And so then I started writing, and was really private about the writing and the process. As you share much more about those experiences than I have. And it took some time for me to get to that place of going, no, okay, I really am stepping into this. And so
it's a big story too, right?
Big story. So the book is called Starlit Paths, A Lyran Legacy. And it tells the story of my life as a Lyran when the Lyran Draconian Wars happened, and knowing what it's like to overcome watching a planet be destroyed, losing family and billions of people, and having to be put in a position of decision making and needing to be able to step into these very important roles, and feeling very unprepared or ill prepared for them. For me, writing this book was a journey of coming home and being able to understand how that lifetime and this lifetime are very paralleled and are merged, right? And so a lot of the experiences and the energies, being able to come to a place where, again, no time and space, it's everything is not as we perceive it to be. And so we come to this understanding that, you know, all experiences are experiences that we experience in this moment, right? And what does that actually mean for me with this very intense lifetime? Right?
Yes.
I say for me, but as you know through our conversations, not that everybody else knows yet, but Tanys is a very intricate part of that story, right? And so both of us are in it throughout the entire book.
When I first read, because I've seen a copy, when I first read, I just sobbed my way through it. It was because, of course, the first part is quite traumatic for both of us, and it was quite an emotional experience for me to be sort of reliving some of that stuff. And it's been wonderful in the fact that we're clearing a lot of that trauma that we had in that lifetime. And I have felt a huge difference in my energetic makeup because of it. And so it's been quite a wonderful experience. And I look forward to more on that journey about the book and where it's going to lead us and all of that stuff. And it's amazing because we've met some other wonderful people that have been presented to us that are actually played a big role in other parts of that story as well. So it'll be fun to see where all of that leads us all.
It's quite incredible. And I know that everything happens for a purpose when it's meant to. And the beautiful thing of getting this information and then meeting people and immediately being able to tap into their energy. Oh, I know you, right? And then sharing an aspect of the story with them and having them go, that resonates deeply. Right? And that has been such a beautiful experience for me because, as you know, stepping into this it's been an act of surrender to be able to step into and go, yeah, this is a life I lived, and this really is a part of who I am. And I'm going to honor that. And, you know me, I like to be behind the scenes. You just do it. You got this. It's okay. I'll just support you and back you up. But being told over the years, and I mean, even stories of while my mother was pregnant with me, things that were said about what I'm meant to do in this life. And it's intimidating sometimes to think about what that might actually mean.
Indeed, I agree. Yes. And the book itself, as I read it, I have to say that I felt like I've become more of myself, is how I describe it, because you discover this piece, right? And I think that's the case with all past lives. For me, it has been anyway. You discover a piece of yourself as you delve into past life remembering, because it's a piece that we've gone through that forgetting aspect, right? As we come down here, which is a good self-defense mechanism that we have built in as humans. But I think as we learn more about our past lives, we tend to really start to be like, oh, okay. Yeah, okay, that's why I know that, or that's why this is such a comfortable process for me, because I've been here and done that, right?
Yeah.
So I think that the past life thing is a fascinating thing to step into in terms of that healing journey where we get to know ourselves.
It
right?
is absolutely fascinating. We talk about fractals and we talk about how we're all connected, right? And you talk about even in quantum physics, right? We're getting into these ideas of that, you know, connectedness of all things, right? And we begin to realize that that doesn't just mean in our 3D world, right? There's so
Mhm.
much more to that. And so every experience we've had, whether it's ancestrally through our lines or through our past lives or concurrent lives, however you view that, right? We begin to understand that, we are tapped into so much more than we realize. And being able to tap into that, as you said, I feel like there has been a coming home to myself through the bringing about of this story and really understanding the depths of connection and experience that happened in that lifetime and going, okay, I got through that. I can do this one. I'm good.
Exactly. It gives you a renewed sense of resilience, I would say,
Mhm.
with that, right? Now
Yeah.
you mentioned we're all connected. This
Mhm.
is a Sufi tradition. There's part of your Sufi tradition, is it not?
It
Why don't you
is.
tell
I
people a
think
little bit
it's
about that? Like, what are some of the base principles of Sufism?
oh my goodness.
I know it's a big thing. Maybe just pick a few.
Where do I start? For me, when I really think about what Sufism is for me, because it's interesting, I got into Sufism through my aunt years ago, and that is a practice that she has through her travels, and my uncle, who is Sufi. What I began to learn at a very early age is this idea of divine love, divine knowledge, and what it is to directly experience the divine, right? And so with Sufism, there's a lot of components here where, we talk about all of these different experiences and we talk about different beings, we talk about angels, we talk about all of that, and it's all absolutely beautiful. But the premise with Sufism is to really have that divine connection with beloved, right? And so holding that space for that direct experience. And when we look at the oneness that we all are, we even get into that place of going, okay, beloved with their beloved is still that duality, right? And how do we work through that duality in our experience, right? So there is a bit of a paradox that happens in the teachings because we want to honor that and we understand the deep longing that we have for that oneness and for that connection, but also knowing that we have this experience that we have to live. And so a lot of the work with Sufism is about shedding the parts of us that don't allow for that connection. So we talk about die before you die, right? What does that really mean? And, we've talked about death of the ego and things like that. And it really is this idea of letting go of the perceptions of what we think we are, right? So getting into the psychology of it, that left brain kind of boxes and labeling, judgment, and all that, to really get into that place of openness and possibility of what it is to be divinely connected to source, right? And so, we've talked about how, there's God, Allah, all of that. And I've always resonated deeply with the Sufi word of beloved, right? Because there is such a deep connecting that happens with that term, right? As opposed to some of the others that, we've talked about. And so, we can go through all of these different practices, and the more that we allow ourselves to step into what it is to die before we die, we begin to understand that, the world experience operates around us and through us, but it is just experience, right? And so one of the teachings of Sufism is no self, no blame, right? To really be in a situation and be able to hold space for what's possible in that situation. And if things go well, alhamdulillah, praise to God, right? It's a beautiful thing. If things don't go well, alhamdulillah, praise to God, that's okay, right? There is not The stories that we talk about, how you talk about, the drama triangle,
Drama
right? And
triangle. Yep.
where do we fit in that? And what role do we take? It's like there is no role in this. Our role is to love the beloved. That is it. That is our role. Right. And so, even in this journey, it's been a die before you die kind of experience of it's okay, Jen, let it go. You don't have to be any particular way. You don't have to be perceived any particular way. It's okay. You were told to write this, you write this. You're told to put it out there, you put it out there. It's okay.
Well, and I think even our us starting our show was like that as well. So Jen and I do a podcast called Twillo Talk as well. When we first started the show, I think that was part of our stuff. We used to have these philosophical conversations, and so we decided to start a show about it. And when we were starting it, we were like, oh, maybe we just better record it. Let's just record them and see how it goes. And then we were like, okay, well, maybe we should just go live because, the recordings are going well.
I have to go live. Wait a minute. What? That was my initial response. I was like, you mean you want us to talk about this and like have actually people on? And it was so funny too, because we don't edit anything. Like it's raw, it's real, it is what it is. But
Yeah.
the idea of doing it live, there was this moment of, oh, I don't know about that. And then it was just like, yeah, okay, sure, let's do it.
A lot of times we end up channeling a lot of the show anyways, right? So
Fair enough.
yeah,
Fair enough.
we should talk about that as well. So you're also a channel.
Mm-hmm.
And how does
Yeah.
that stuff work for you?
It's interesting. I know, sometimes people have like full trance channels, and I've had some of those experiences. But for the
Channeling
most part, I just allow, just that kind of step out of the way and just allow what needs to come to come. And that has been for me the best, especially in my practice. It's always so funny though when a client goes, "Oh my goodness, can you say that again?" And I go, "Oh, how about you paraphrase that for me?" What did you hear? Because, to come
Yeah.
back in and go, "Oh, I don't actually know. Hold on, let me see if they'll give it to me again when I'm more present." But then there are times where, as I just experienced, there's, this moment of everybody is just trying to say something. And it's like, okay, hold on, give me a moment, one at a time, because I don't operate that way in this dimension to be able to get all of it all at once. And so that experience does come in for me as well.
You've done some full trance channeling when I was on, and I've done that when you were on. Like we've had numerous instances where we're like, okay, something's coming through. And we press
Definitely.
record. So
Definitely. I think it happens more than I often realize in terms of we'll have these great conversations and go, that was a really great conversation. Yeah, I don't know what we just talked about. I know.
well, that's why I think Twillo Talk ends up like that a lot when we're doing the show.
One of the things, though, that started that channeling practice for me was through guided writing, right? Channeled writing.
Yeah.
And so early on in my Sufi practice, one of the things that my aunt had said, try to do was to get a journal dedicated specifically for this and just open it up, right? And start however you want, right? God, Allah, beloved, whatever it is that you want to put in there, love, light, universe, whatever, right?
Yeah.
And then just start, right? And write, what your query is or what you're worried about or how you're feeling, or just leave it and wait, right? And it was beautiful because being young, when I was first introduced to it, I, of course, went off on those like teenager tangents, right? Oh, beloved, this is happening and that's happening and blah, 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 and this, and that, and the other thing. And you can actually see when it starts to shift in the text.
Yeah.
Right? When that channeling steps in and the message changes, and I'm now getting a message as opposed to ranting my issue out, and being able to actually see how the writing and everything just shifted in the journals. And over time, I got to a place where I was like, okay, you know what my issue is. I'm ready when you are. Right. And allowing that to flow and, going back after and reading it and the, the warmth and the compassion, the love, the guidance, the grounding, all that comes from that was a beautiful part of my practice.
Yeah, it's really a great way to connect with the divine too, or the beloved.
Mhm.
In that.
It really is. And the beautiful thing about doing the writing, as opposed to just having it come through as a message, is that you can always go back to it.
That's right. I mean, the recording's great, but sometimes you just want to snip it from it.
Mhm.
You're not quite sure where that came in, right?
Yeah.
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 And you
So-
also do a number of different energy healing.
Well, on some levels, I think it was always a part of my experience, right? As a young child, I would, if I saw an animal that was hurt or wounded or anything like that, I would go and I would hold them and all and try to, take care of them, giving them love. Right.
Yeah.
Throughout time, there was a part of me that, had continued to do that. And then in 2011 and 2012, I started my Reiki journey. In 2012, I got my master's. I really, stepped into that journey because I was going through a very difficult time in my own life. And I was realizing that I was using my own energy for a lot of what I was doing, especially with my children and all of that. And I found I needed to understand a little bit more of what I was doing. And so Reiki seemed the way to go. And it's really interesting. You talk about what's meant to be. At the time that I wanted to take my Reiki classes, I had no funds. I had no access to anything. And I was like, okay, if I'm meant to do this, you have to make it happen. Right. And so the money came from various places to do my different levels. And then I got to my master's, and it was quite a bit more because the path, the lineage that I'm with is just has 1, 2, and then master's. So master's is quite intensive. And I was like, okay, well, if I'm meant to do this, you're going to have to figure something out because I got nothing.
Yeah.
And shortly thereafter, I found a key. I went, what does this key go to? I was like, oh, I think this key goes to the lockbox. All right, hold on, let me find the lockbox. And then I was like, I can't find the lockbox, whatever. And then the kids were playing with something and pulled out a box, and sure enough, there was the lockbox. And I'm going, okay, let me go find that key again. Grab the key, right? Open it, and the exact amount I needed for my Reiki masterclass was in my lockbox. And I just went, okay, I'll do it. This is what I'm meant to do.
You can't make this stuff up, right? We say that all the time. You can't make this
Not at all. Not at all. And I've learned that throughout my experience. Everything, falls into place as it's meant to, when it's meant to. And every experience that I have had has shown me how loved I am and how cared for and protected I am. I mean, all the way down to I wanted banana bread one day. The kids had finished the banana bread I made, and I was like, oh, okay, no banana bread for me. Not 10 minutes later, my neighbor knocks on my door and says, I just have homemade banana bread. I can't eat it all. Do you want some bananas? I mean, like, just such, like, even just such simple things, and going, oh, okay, thank you. Right.
Thank you for banana bread.
We're so cared for. I mean, it's everything. I mean, we talk about, like simple things like banana bread or money to do a course, looking for where to live. I mean, that's a guided experience if I ever had one. And that's happened for, both of the main places I've ever lived.
Yeah.
Right. Of, really being guided to the exact location. Never been there before, had no idea where I was going, just listening. Okay, stop here. Okay, go right here. Okay. Right. And then stop and going, okay, what am I doing here? I don't even know where I am right now. Right. And being able to kind of look over, and there's a for rent sign. And I'm like, really? This is it? Okay. Called, and I moved in that weekend. Right. Like there's these moments in our lives where being able to surrender allows for such beautiful unfolding to happen.
But it takes a lot of trust. Like, not everybody can do that, Jen. Go out and say, okay, where am I going? Am I turning left? Am I turning right? Where am I going?
Yeah. And this is why, again, the Sufi tradition, that idea of die before you die, because we have to get out of our own way. And admittedly, that's not easy. And I can say, part of my journey of getting out of my own way was going, okay, I keep messing this up when I do this my way. I can't keep doing this my way. My way does not work. So I'm done. I give it over, right? I'm not making these choices anymore. You're going to have to just show me. And I think that, as we talk about, our journeys and our practices and all of that kind of stuff, we are often guided, and I have on my website that I got into the field of mental health and truly, connect with Nguyen's wounded healer, in that I got into that journey because I wanted to understand my own traumas and my own experiences, and then wanted to be able to use that understanding to support others in their journey. And it is that same kind of thing. We go through really difficult things, and it's not to break us as we sometimes think, right? We go through those difficult things and they're happening for us to help guide us in directions that we can't even fathom in those moments.
I mean, we can be very limiting in our beliefs when we step into like the manifestation thing and everything. We can be quite limiting because we only think we can have this, when really there's endless possibility of what we could have if we opened ourselves up to it. I think that the story about Sakhmet is fascinating. So you were attuned to Sakhmet in a previous life.
Yes, I
Our
was.
Egyptian life, we were. How you decided to step into teaching. That part of the story is fascinating for me.
It's interesting. It's that piece of, I felt very connected to the energy and realized that I was actually using the energy without knowing what it is. And, anybody who's doing energy work these days realizes that everything is beginning to be interwoven, right? We're not just channeling Reiki anymore. We're not, and so, I'm talking and it's just, here we go. And so,
How it works.
we begin to realize all of that. And at one point, I remember with the Sakhmet coming through and going, okay, this is really important for healing and for helping us move through what the world is coming through right now. It was really interesting because I've connected with some of my past life stuff periodically over a period of time. And this all happened actually before the book. So this was a previous awareness that had come. And as it was coming in, we were talking about it. I remember seeing myself as a Sakhmet warrior,
Mhm.
and it was incredible to have that experience and go, okay. And then realizing that the stories around Sakhmet, right, because it's the goddess of healing, but also destruction, and what, a lot of the tales around that, the way that they're portrayed is not quite accurate in terms of what really happened. And so it's been a beautiful journey, and being able to, sorry, being able to get the course and what is meant to come through for that, because I realized that my job as part of this is to help rewrite the story so that people really understand what that divine knowledge is in terms of the healing that she brings forth,
Mhm.
and to help us have a better understanding of the importance of destruction and how that plays a role in our healing.
And that's Sakhmet, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. Whose healing modality is Sakhmet.
Yes. Yes, she's right there, if you can see.
She has a place of honor. I found it fascinating that you, when you were doing research for this, that you sent out an email to a practitioner.
Yeah, I did. I sent an email out and was basically given all of the workbooks and all of that. And they said, here, go ahead, have a look at them. They were fascinating and amazing. They're not how I will teach it, but it was still a beautiful thing to receive and know that there is other teachings out there that are honoring her and honoring this energy. Yeah, it's absolutely fascinating to have that connection and to see, she actually said in her email to me I was told I have to give you these, right? Because they were
Exactly.
things that
Yeah.
were normally sold, and I wasn't
Yeah.
asking for the workbooks or anything. I was really just reaching out and saying, it's nice to see that you're doing this work, and it'd be nice to connect at some point. And yeah, and the message back was, here, I was told to give you all. I just went, oh, thank you, right? And that was really wonderful as a confirmation for the fact that this is also part of the work that I'm meant to be doing.
It's a beautiful energy. Jen attuned me, and it was quite transformative, I would say, that the attunement for that particular one. I've had a number of them myself, but this one was quite, it was a spontaneous kind of thing.
Well, you did the class.
Well, we did, yeah.
Wasn't that
It was
spontaneous?
kind of spontaneous, only because we were like doing something else, and all of a sudden Jen was like, "Okay, it's
It's
now.
time. I've been
Come
told.
downstairs." We were like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah.
Finish dinner later, you know.
Yeah. It is a beautiful energy though. I mean, we talk about Reiki, and Reiki has that kind of a light energy feel, and it just kind of radiates through. Aqualite actually feels a bit like a wave as it comes through.
It does.
Right? And Sachem for me feels like a warm hug. Like it just comes in and it envelops. And for me, that just, it feels in a lot of ways like it encompasses some of these other energies, right? Like you talk about shambolic energy that's, multidimensional and all of that. And Sachem has that same kind of feeling in terms of, being able to heal through the dimensions. And so through lifetimes and all of that.
And I know when Nocti came in,
Mhm.
that's very multidimensional too. So
Mhm.
Nocti is a galactic energy, and Jen, I attuned Jen to that. So we've done a lot of stuff together, and
Yeah, and that one feels more kinetic in the
it
way that it
is.
for me.
Yeah, it's more like not tingly, but movement like that.
Mhm.
What it is, but it's really making a difference at the cellular level. So all of these things work in different levels of the energy system, in different aspects of self, in different, levels of chakras and all of that stuff. So it's quite fascinating when we start to look at those different types of modalities.
Well, and as I said, the more, I do this work, and I incorporate Reiki energy in my practice, because in psychotherapy, Reiki is allowed and there's a whole lot of stuff going on there. But I tell my clients all of the time, you're signing for Reiki, what comes through is going to come through, because all of these energies are really beginning to mix and intermingle. And again, coming back to that Sufi idea of going right to the divine, right? In that connection, there is a shift in the sense that we can use all of these different roads and all of these different ways of coming to source, but we're always going to come to source. And so as we do, things begin to meld together into the oneness. And that's really how the energies are working now, too.
Now, you are also an ordained minister.
I am.
How did that come about?
Well, that's interesting. I am an ordained minister in Ontario and would love to be in Quebec, but that's a whole other process to get there.
This is in Canada, for those of
In
you.
Canada, that's where I am. Yeah, in Canada. And so well, I guess growing up, part of, I spent a lot of time involved in the church and, being a part of, youth groups and all of that. And I went through a period of time actually in university. I went to a Christian university. So I have a bachelor's of social work and a bachelor's of science in biblical studies. And I got to my final course, had to write my doctrinal statement, and of course, it didn't agree with that of the school. And I kind of went, all right, if I'm going to, potentially fail because I don't agree with this, I think I need to revisit what's going on here. And so I began to explore all of the different faiths and traditions and all of that. And I had already been introduced to Sufism through my aunt, so I was already very familiar with that and the Quran, but I wanted to expand even more into different teachings, knowing that there's more, right? It's not just one teaching. All of these have beautiful truths behind them. And I was always interested in the mystical side of the teachings anyway, which is beyond the rules and regulations, if you will, right? Different teachings that are out there. Through that, I actually had thought I probably won't fit into any kind of box if it comes to being a spiritual leader of some kind, because I can't just say that one thing is true. And I kept getting, you should be ordained. You need to do this. So you need to start maybe a community, maybe a church, maybe I don't know what, but something. And going, okay, I don't know what that's going to look like, but show me. And then I actually was talking as I was starting my master's program, I was talking to this lovely woman who was also a psychotherapist and also ordained. And she talked to me about this church that is in the east coast of Canada, that they were very open to people who have different spiritual backgrounds and all of that. And I thought, okay, well, if this is meant to be, we'll see. And then things started showing up and more people were asking. And I actually had people asking me about starting community, spiritual communities. And I'm like, okay, I think this is something I need to do. So I reached out just to talk to them, and they asked me to write my story. And I said, okay, I can do that. And I put it all in there, right? All of my experiences, all of my beliefs and all of that. And they said, this is beautiful. Yes. We want you to, join us. And I was deeply, deeply honored to be able to be a part of their church. And so it was a beautiful experience. And that was how I ended up becoming ordained.
It's always been a beautiful thing to watch you flourish through all of this. I mean, we've known each other now for quite a while, and I've seen you go through that whole process and everything, and the flourishing that has come about as you've started your practice, because the psychotherapy practice has only been really the last, 5 years?
Yeah. I mean, I started my business, and I do that because, it wasn't officially anything. It was just, I would consult here or there and all of that. But back in 2015, but didn't really do a whole lot with it at that point in time. And so I would do, spiritual counseling or coaching, and I would consult actually for, different mental health facilities and things like that. But I didn't do a whole lot with it. And then in 2021, somewhere around there, I officially registered the business and began a practice. And I remember even going through that process again, another death of self, because I really wanted it to be a spiritual practice. And the secular world doesn't always want a spiritual practice. And because I'm in a field that is highly regulated and all of that, there was a lot of fear around what would happen if I allowed myself to incorporate spirituality into my practice. And even though there's classes and things like that on being open to people and meeting them where they're at and all of that, that often doesn't include spirituality, because it is one of those areas that people are scared to tread. And so being able to really step into it and say, you know what, yes, I am going to do psychotherapy, but I'm going to do intuitive coaching, and I'm going to do spiritual counseling, and I'm going to bring in transpersonal psychology, and I'm going to work with psychosynthesis, and I'm going to allow these other, like, there are modalities that are out there and are being taught, but they're not necessarily in, what Canada's traditional registered world of psychotherapy is.
Right. Yes.
Right. And as I opened to that, I just said, okay, I'm going to trust that I'm protected. And if for whatever reason something is not okay, let me know. But for the most part, it's been a beautiful journey again in surrendering and going, this is what you want me to do. This is what you've been telling me I need to do. So I'm just going to do it. Right. And in doing it, it's been beautiful. I mean, my practice is flourishing, and the spiritual aspect of it, so many people really want and need that,
Mhm.
and we've done, trade shows and things like that together. And so you've seen my little sign that I actually have to fix. It's normally on the wall behind me, but the frame, I have to fix it. But it's the light worker psychotherapist,
Mm.
right? And so being really able to hold that space for people who are on their spiritual journey, are experiencing things that the mental health world might kind of raise an eyebrow at, right? And to be able to hold that space for them and say, it's okay. You're okay.
I see you.
Right? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And to help them understand and accept their experiences and hold space for what's going on for them so that they can see themselves,
Mhm.
right? And know that it is okay.
Yeah. And along the journey, you ended up coming to teach with Twilla Lifestyle and becoming a practitioner with Twilla Lifestyle Community as well. And that was part of the differentiating for a while for you, I think, in terms of the practice. Why don't you tell us about that?
For a little while there, when I first started out, I thought, okay, I'm going to have my psychotherapy practice, and then I'm going to do all the spiritual stuff with. And as beautiful as that was, and it was a wonderful thing that you were able to hold that space for me, and I still love to be being a part of it and all of that. But that wasn't meant to be my journey, right? I wasn't meant to differentiate those things. I really was meant to bring them together. Right. And so to hold that oneness even within my practice.
Yeah.
And so it did allow me that transition time, though, to become comfortable with bringing that into my practice and holding space for that. And so I still absolutely love when we do work together and when we support clients together and when you call me in to, help with that support and all of that. And the teaching, of course, is wonderful as well.
So we're actually teaching a joint class. It's just started, and it's a 2-year program, Peacekeepers of the Light. And so it's been a beautiful journey, and we've been writing that together for a few years now, getting it ready. So
They've been telling us for a long time to do that course. And again, it is that piece of going, okay, am I ready to step into this? We've shared this story in Twillo before and all, but that, our beautiful meetings in IKEA. um, but the one of them being there and actually being told, like, you're going to head an army of light workers. This is something that you are meant to do. You're going to help lead these light workers and support them and guide them. And I was like, are you kidding me? You want me to do what? I mean, I know I do this work, but you want me to do what? and so being able to finally bring this course to fruition is kind of the first steps in that journey of being able to be there and to be a support for other people who are doing this work. And when we're called to it, we're called to it. We don't really, it's one thing to say, yeah, we have a choice, but it's something else to go, yeah, I might have a choice, but this stuff keeps showing up and I have to deal with it.
yes, exactly.
Right. So being able to hold that space for them and work with them and support them and all of that has been a beautiful, beautiful addition to my journey.
Well, and I think becoming that teacher mentor kind of role, because this is really a program where we're doing mentoring as well, which is, it's a beautiful part of it. So you've just got so much going on.
There is definitely a lot going on, but it's all connected, as is everything. And so I don't even have words. It's been a beautiful unfolding.
Yeah.
As we were talking about earlier with bringing in some of these past life things, for a while, there was a point where I was like, why do you keep giving me all of this knowledge about these past lives? I'm not doing this stuff now. This isn't for me now. Right? How naive I was. And to be able to take a step back and go, oh, I see. Okay, this isn't because, I have to step into that in that same way, but I can understand now the healing that is meant to come from this and the integration that is meant to come from this. And it's absolutely beautiful. And it really, has again allowed me to come home to myself in so many ways. And so we look at all of these things that we're doing, right? And all of the different things that have been unfolding. And it's quite incredible because the interconnectedness of it actually connects back to a lot of that as well. And so
It does. It's amazing how all of this connects, and it's bringing back all of this knowledge for a lot of us. And I think that's a beautiful part, is to do
Mhm.
that. And I know there's going to be lots of new stuff coming forward. I know for me, I've offered to do some support groups with Beyond Being Human, and that's something maybe you'd like to join us to
Okay,
do.
that would be interesting.
So
Yeah.
I know I'm kind of putting you on the spot there, but it's something
I'd
to
love
think
to hear
about.
more.
Yeah, something to think about. And so that's going to be coming up back with Beyond Being Human. So stay
Beautiful.
tuned for that sort of thing. And do you have anything else that you would like to share?
What came to my mind as you were asking me about that and then saying, oh, I'm putting you on the spot, right? So the pillars of Sufism, right? So humility, charity, and truth, right? Yeah, give of my time to support and honor truths and help others in their journey. That sounds like it would be a lovely thing.
I know you do as I do. We kind of do what we're told, right? So
Oh,
yeah.
what we're told. Not some of the others, but
And so what does it mean to you to be beyond human? What does that term
Mhm.
mean to you?
Yeah. When I think about what it is, I think I have to answer that by first saying what I think it is to be human,
Yeah.
right? So when we talk about being human, we're here, we're having this 3D experience. We're often caught up in the play,
Yeah.
right? And we're taking on all of these roles and we're very much living in everything but the moment.
It's true, right? We spend a lot of time in the past with guilt and shame, and then we spend a lot of time in the future with worry and anxiety.
Right. And so when I think about what it is to be beyond being human, is to recognize that interconnectedness that is within us, the part of us that is still completely connected with Source, that is here just having an experience. We don't have to be defined by our experience, but we get to define our experiences, right? And so being beyond human is allowing ourselves to be in the experience, in the human experience, but not being attached to it and not having it control our movements, but our ability to take a step back and observe it and then control where we go from there.
Nice. Yeah. And for me, I would say it's about acknowledging our multidimensionality and having experience in the other dimensions as we are human and what that is like as well. So I think that it's a really good overview for somebody who's watching who wants to know kind of what is it like to be beyond human? What is that?
Mhm.
I just want to say thank you so much for joining me today on Explorations. It's always amazing to share the screen with you, Jen, and I'm truly honored that we are friends in this time, in this life, and many. And I'm just sending you so much love. And for all of you out there, thank you so much for joining us. We're so pleased and honored that you were able to join us and share in the energy. Thanks, and see you next time.